Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Aries season episode of Stars and Cards. Jenny, hi.
Hi, Shadi. How are you?
I am definitely feeling all the turbulence of this month already in my physical body, in my energy body. We have a very dynamic month for folks that don't know. We have obviously the spring equinox, the start of the zodiac year, and then we have two eclipses. So we're having one coming up very soon on the 25th, and then we have one 2 weeks after. And in between that, we've got the Mercury retrograde, which begins and lasts for all of Aries season. And in addition to that, we have Venus changing signs and Mars changing signs. So, it's only those two planets. So that's still a shift. Venus enters Aries, Mars enters Pisces. So we're still very much one foot in Piscean energy and one
Darn it.
Aries energy, so water and fire. So Jenny, tell me how was how was Pisces season for you?
All the water. Oh, it was emotional. Was it emotional for you too? Besides the emotional stuff, I would say that I definitely was made more aware of what's not working in some way, shapes, or form, like what things I've been trying to force maybe that or hang on to that I really can't anymore. Almost like a tightness, like I've outgrown things or I just feel like really constrained. I'm not really always aware what the next step is, but there's an awareness there. And I was hoping, and I am hoping that sort of Aries season will bring a little bit of action, but the potential there to really let go of a few things. And I think that's something you noticed as well in terms of some of the energy coming up. So that's good. What about you?
I mean, wow, because Aquarius season tends to be kind of, in my chart, it's a good time for me. So I go into this mode of like kind of organizing and getting ready and going, and then boop, I hit Pisces season. And the way it sits in my chart, it opposes my, first house. So where Pisces piles up in that seventh house for me, opposing my first house with Mars, um I get flare-ups, all types of flare-ups. So whether it's physical or energetic, like emotional. So I get edgy, I'm uncomfortable. This sort of does happen every year for me. But this particular year we have Saturn there in Pisces, and Saturn not being an easy sign, I think for me just kept relentlessly being like, where's your spiritual practice? Where is your daily kind of routine? What is going on? So I had to really contend with a lot of those things, which are things I don't like to think about, believe it or not. My self-care, nope, I'm going to talk to other people about that. So that was,
It's the worst having to take your own advice. I say this all the time. It's the worst thing.
you know,
Oh, yeah. And when you said about, I think you mentioned about feeling lethargic and foggy headed. Yes, totally. Yeah.
definitely. I felt I'm still in that bit of a fog, and I know that as we move into Aries season, I want to say because we have that one foot still in Pisces, I just what this season for me really has already started to feel like, and as we enter Aries, the sun enters Aries and we start having more energy there. It's gonna be jolting. It's almost jarring. Like it's not an easy transition into, I know it's not like that grand away. Ah! Okay, tell me about that because I actually really feel really frustrated by this energy this year because usually it's like really motivating and exciting and I'm ready to go and take on all the things in the world, like whether it's activism or my
Mhm.
drive for whatever. And this year I'm like stuck in my anger and my rage, and I'm feeling really angsty,
Mhm.
unable to, I'm annoyed by the jolt. I just want to go back into my little cave.
Aquarius bubble.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
or the Aquarius bubble, exactly. But please
Yeah.
about because yeah, this has been it's a jarring month, obviously because of the eclipses as well and other things we'll get into. But tell me about that card, please.
So Aries in the tarot is personified by the Emperor, which aligned is a lovely space taking, stretching out, expanding. And in my practice, I cannot do any work with the Emperor without the Empress. So to me, I always like to visualize the emperor as being the tree and the empress as being the roots. And so you need your root work and your foundations really solid and cared for so that you can grow up and out and expand in your own life. What I would say is cool about the emperor aligned is that it's about taking up space, but knowing that when you take up your space and expand into your own life, you're not taking over anyone else's. It's not like so many of us shy away from really that expansion because we're worried about putting other people off or being or coming across a certain way or being seen to be a certain way or that we're going to be shining more than them and that makes us uncomfortable. But it's really about having that, it's like sitting on your own throne. Do you know what I mean? Like taking up the space and proudly sitting on your own throne. And the emperor is the fire energy, right? And that is ruled by Tower, which is also fire energy of Mars. So, but along with that, we have to do with the Emperor. I always look at the numerological links as well, and numerologically, it's linked with the Death card. So you were saying fire and water, but even in Aries season itself, there's fire and water together. So you have the Emperor is fire, Death has Scorpio, which is water, Tower is fire, but there's also the Queen of Wands, which is water and fire together. So we've got some really good supports, which we can talk about in a little bit. But just to be mindful, like Emperor is a lot, Death card is a lot, Tower is a lot.
Are those cards associated with this season? Like even like
Aries season.
Queen of Wands is associated with Aries season?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
that's
know. And it's the magic maker, right? Yeah. So Aaron, Queen of Wands is really cool because of the water fire. So if you think about water and fire, you can't do much together with water and fire. They're very opposing. So there requires a little bit of alchemy somewhere to make them work.
so what are your thoughts on, because I've been thinking a lot about, so how do we navigate this turbulent Aries season? Um,
Yeah.
with the eclipse portals, they can be really discombobulating, and the ancients saw them as these awful things, and we know them to be, we're like reframing awful in a sense that I don't believe they bring like negative outcomes in one's life,
Hmm.
the way the ancients did. But I do feel like these portals, which we've been going through for some time now, because
Hmm.
they're an eclipse series, and I'm gonna talk more on that on my Patreon and explain how an eclipse series or an eclipse story works. But we're in an eclipse story between Aries and Libra right now. We're amidst it, and we will be for another year. And
Yeah.
and so we're kind of, we've been contending with these themes. Um, Aries has been highlighted in many ways in our lives for a while now too, because Chiron is there. So there's
Hmm.
this, like, woundiness about Aries in general for the last few years, and especially now with the eclipses. This idea of identity, the right to exist. I think about the
Yeah.
emperor. I think about what
Yes.
aligned existence really mean. People love to throw that word around, but what does it mean? And I'm being signaled back to Pisces, the wisdom of Pisces at the moment saying,
Yeah.
well, our resiliency as human beings really, for me, this is the interpretation, is that it lies in connection to our emotional intelligence.
Yeah, so that's exactly what this month is. This month is like a perfect opportunity where we're going to have that energy of the fire, which is bright, sparky opportunities, right? Think about negative things. I think they can also be thought about, and not in a bypassing way, but as opportunities for growth, because opportunities for growth are not comfortable. Being in our comfort zone is important for part of our existence, but in terms of growth, it's not the most conductive to growth. Now, I like to call it the discomfort zone cha-cha because I think you need to have one foot in and out and you kind of do a little dance in and out of, because I think if you're left to hang out in the massive discomfort zone, you're also going to go into very like survivalist sort of protective things. So there has to be an element of like, oh, I can see my comfort zone. It's right there. If I need to step into it, I can step into it, but I'm going to shift myself into a little discomfort. And I wonder if eclipses are maybe that kind of vibe or opportunity. What I was thinking about in terms of the tarot was that, yes, we're going to have some opportunities here. There's some opportunities for something sparky and new and a fresh way of seeing things, but that requires the breaking down of something that already exists. And so that can be very challenging. And so what's great about this time of year is that we can do an amazing amount with that fiery energy if we trust the quality of our emotional intelligence. If we can trust that the messages we're getting from our intuition, from our emotional realms, from our inner knowings, that they'll tell us when that's too much, that's too fast, that's too hard, let's come back a wee bit. So I think exactly that. We can do so much if we trust and can rely on our emotional intelligence big time.
I think we live in a world where we are really like robbed of our own connection to our inner healer and our own, inner
My
knowing.
gosh, yes.
But, like, almost guised in a sneaky way, like, almost guised, like, in the wellness world, well, it'll be like, "I'm gonna help you," like, "I'm gonna hold space for you," but it's not like a true holding space, like, it's not really it's like, I'm still gonna, like, tell you and sell you and all this nonsense around what you need to do to stay well. Well, you and I both know that is utter
Mhm.
shit, because the only way to really be well is to come back home to yourself, to come back home. As you know, when we say homeward healer, it's this idea of like, we got to come here first and sort things out here and inside
Yeah,
us. It could be
yeah.
chaotic, it could be messy, and it will.
Oh, it will be.
I mean, yes, the wisdom of elders and, you know, authentic healers, real folks
Yeah,
that bring support. That's amazing. We all need it. We do this work with other people and we need it too. That
yeah.
said, I think that there's a lot of manipulation out there around making one feel that they can't also be like that connection.
100%. I feel like it's well, we can always add a little more hierophant to all of our lives, I suppose, about understanding and knowing ourselves. But healing work, homecoming stuff is messy. It's not always, it can be messy. It's not always, it's definitely not the love and light aspect of wellness that we are all that's being shoved down our throats sometimes. It's not, it doesn't have a vitamin or a supplement that's going to fix it. You know what I mean? It is the emotional the more we go into our own on walk our own paths and come back to ourselves constantly, the more that we build up our resilience and our understanding of our emotional depths, of our wounds, of our what needs a little healing, what needs a little TLC, of our strengths, but also our areas of for development. Say it nicely, our areas that are can be challenging for us. The more we know that, the better we're able to show up for ourselves first, and I believe that. And then for our families, our friends, our communities, our and that's it's a lot, and it's not something that's a quick fix. It's not going to be fixed by consuming more things, but it certainly is a beautiful opportunity, and I think it's one that we are a lot more capable of engaging with supports, aligned supports along the way. But the ones that we're very much capable of engaging with this work a lot for ourselves, a lot more than maybe we're told or that made to feel.
Exactly. And if we actually don't know really what is going on, then how do we seek the aligned supports that you're saying?
Right.
You know, but now that we're in Aries season, the pace is fast. It's Mars, it's
Mhm.
fiery this year. And I want to say, I want your thoughts on this, but while Mars is often associated with, um, it's the warrior energy, right? Our inner warrior, and it's connected to rage and action and all things that propel us, right? So like passion, it's
Yeah.
connected to like sex life, it's connected to all things that have to do with like desire and passion. And Aries is also a lot about our almost like carnal needs, right? It's a very like fundamental needs. And anyway, not to go on about that, but I want to say that there's a lot of anger that's going to be really surfacing for folks, and I've been feeling it. Um, but me and Mars, we don't vibe well
Yeah.
together. I feel like there's going to be some unexpected rage coming up for folks this Aries season. a lot like whatever swallowed hurt is there. We don't want to fan the flames of this fire. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of impulsivity this month. If we are not gauging our emotional world well, there may be a lot of conflict, the heightening of emotions for sure with any um, eclipse season. And for folks that don't know, we call it eclipse season because they happen in twos or threes.
Hmm.
And they go back to back. So, lunar eclipse is a full moon that's amplified, and so solar eclipse is a new moon. So we're going to be experiencing this coming full moon, and the new moon of this Pisces season is really that Tower card energy, which already you
It
said
is.
is connected to Aries
Yeah.
season. Absolutely, like for me, I feel it's going to be amplified. And so, what are your thoughts around like working with what's going on in terms of the world right now? I
Hmm.
feel the rage of all of us who are, you know, seeing the injustices, not
Yeah.
Palestine, all over the world, right? Like
Yeah.
Congo, Sudan, you name it, like everywhere, like all the regions here on Turtle Island in North America
Hmm.
and in Europe. And people are upset about a lot of things, or angry about a lot of things. So there is this idea of a sacred rage, but I also don't want to
Yeah.
romanticize it, because that rage can also be utterly destructive. So to ourselves and externally expressed. And with this Mercury retrograde in Aries, I just think, oh gosh, like I can already feel it's palpable. I can feel um, more conflict, more escalations, and for folks in their personal lives, I feel like this is really important to acknowledge. Being in this season right now of how we're going to move through this rage, whether
Hmm.
or not one wants to acknowledge it or not,
Hmm.
it is going to be there.
Yeah, I think that I've never loved this season. I have a lot of I have friends who love this season, right? And it plays into their fiery nature anyway, so they feel at home in it. And actually, those people who are used to being in a fiery sort of state and have the more of that energy in their charts or energy in their bodies and stuff are more at home with it. So they actually probably feel like they can handle it a bit more. We were talking about this earlier, but I am definitely a highly sensitive person. So an HSP, you'll definitely be a HSP. And I think a lot of people listening are probably HSPs. And so this is can be a very uncomfortable season for us because we're hypersensitive to big energies anyways. We're also probably people who have been told to not express rage. So the more you dampen it down, the less you're used to working with it. But 100% that there's going to be flare-ups and moments of that kind of big energy, and we really do need to rely on our emotional intelligence and our experience, and which HSPs are actually very comfortable doing. So we're just thinking about the fire and the water thing. You can't have fire and water mix well, um, without a little alchemy, without a little magic. So there's something going on there, right, where we have to transform or transmute these energies together. But what is cool is that the water energy of the season with the Scorpio, the Death card, with the Queen of Wands, and also I'm gonna say about the King of Wands or King of Cups in a minute. But it can help dampen, right? It's a little spritz, like just let's keep things there. Yeah. But what I've been working a lot recently with, so Queen of Wands is considered queens are cup energy, water energy, and the wands are fire energy. So I've been working a lot with siblings, and so the sibling of the Queen of Wands is the King of Cups because kings are fire and the cups are water, and so I consider them like elemental siblings. And so what's really beautiful about the King of Cups is they are like the kings are embodied leadership, and so there's an element of the King of Cups being the leader of healers, and it's knowing about how best to weather emotional storms that come our way and being really steadfast in and Jessica Dorr speaks about this in her book. She talks about the King of Cups of understanding the life cycle of emotions. So emotional intelligence really is about understanding the life cycle of an emotion and knowing that we don't do this with every bit of our emotion. We stay steadfast in knowing that we're going to feel this way, and we stay with our feelings the whole way. We don't let them rule every moment of our lives, and we don't let them rule every action. They inform us and they tell us what's going on. They're really good information. Like righteous rage is a very good bit of data. So emotions are data for us if we're really willing to listen. And the King of Cups knows that the way we see ourselves through the emotional storms is by staying steady with ourselves. So accepting everything that comes up, but not necessarily letting that thing that comes up rule our choices and rule where we go with everything. And I think the King of Cups is very good at seeing the bigger picture of how, oh, I know what happens. When I feel this way, I kind of know what's going on. I know where this is going to take me. This is going to be quite draining for me. Um, but we also know how to process and embed. So it's like letting the emotion come up, but we know how to process and embed it. And that's what a leader does, is they don't let things be whimmy. They're not going here, there, and everywhere. They're not letting their emotions drive the car the whole time. It's like you can inform, this is good data. They're more like the things on the dashboard. They're just giving us good data, but we're in charge.
I love that so much. You said energy, sorry, emotions are like data, or like righteous rage is like date. This is all data. And it's interesting. I remember I had this homeopath many, many years ago, ages ago. And she told me emotions are energy in motion. And so
Mhm,
letting things kind of like move, and this idea of them being data and sort of being something that moves and you move through, and not having it trapped and stuck inside is,
mhm.
on a logical level, it makes so much sense. But when we're a
I
mix,
know.
and then our patterns, and then I also think about, I love that. I love the archetype of the king and queen of cups. Wait, wands,
King
cups.
of Cups, Queen of Wands, yeah.
My God, it's like tarot. So it get like my mind gets so confused with that, and yet I could just like go through an astrology
Well, I
chart.
feel the same about astrology. That's why we're together, Shati.
Oh my
We'll
God.
keep each other right.
Thank you so much for that explanation. It's so helpful to work with that energy and see that card's energy in that way. When you said that, I thought to myself, well, who gets to be the leader? Who gets to express their rage and who doesn't? Because I've been thinking a lot about this, and my entire life of being who I am, my identity, as an Iranian, as an immigrant, when I came here when I was 9 years old, and having all this like grief and rage and unresolved, sort of a lot of childhood trauma, going through the things I went through, experiencing an authoritarian regime during a time of war, and also adults that were really struggling and didn't know how to hold space for themselves, let alone children. And so, my formative years there, coming here and like being angry, so much of my sort of came out of my teens, that anger. And of course, my chart, it's the way Mars sits in my chart. I do tend to go to anger as a more comfortable emotion for me as opposed to sadness. And
Mhm.
and so I'm thinking like how I was denied so much of my anger because of first of all being a woman, being
Yes.
the way, just not even just culturally, in my culture, all over the world, patriarchy doesn't have limits and boundaries. So we're taught to sort of swallow our anger a lot. And also just as a person of color, or especially from a part of the world that you're already pegged as being angry, or they're just like violent and they're dangerous, like that, where you get the messaging that your anger is
Yeah.
not welcome. Your
I'm welcome.
passion
Yeah.
is welcome. And I understand the nuance there, like around what you're saying, around like kind of how to move through the anger, how to learn to. So for me, I learned like an unhealthy way a relationship with the anger. So it's like just
Yeah.
blow it out, just be angry. Well, you're gonna tell me I can't. Well, I'm gonna get even more in your face, and so there's this thing where that ends up harming me in the process anyway. So I
Mhm.
just wanted to share that piece because it's like a lot of us, just because of our identities and who we are in the world, are denied that expression of anger, and we haven't figured out.
Absolutely.
It's an energy
Yeah.
that season, it, as you said, some people are like comfortable with it or able to, and I think of patriarchy when I think of like,
Yep.
I'm wrong, but like the emperor
That's an unaligned, right? Unaligned emperor.
is it
Uh-huh.
that it's like that there's a way to like certain people get to be that and utilize that
Yeah,
fire energy, and the rest of us are sitting here like just getting burnt by it, you know? And
absolutely.
like when we work with folks or when we talk with folks, it's like this way of like honoring this season, like even with Pisces, bringing that compassion and that emotional intelligence, telling us like it's um important to be steadfast about our healing,
Yeah.
because nobody's telling you to not to feel that anger, but to heal. I'm getting so emotional just talking about it because
Yeah.
ooh, we're living in a world that is enraging. We see so much things that make us upset and angry, and we're
Hmm.
told to just swallow it and swallow it.
Hmm.
It's not okay because it hurts us. It stagnates that energy internally. And externally, nothing happens. No wheels move. Passion, that energy, that anger moves us into action. That's what this
Yeah.
is about. But
Yeah.
aligned action, right? Like we don't want to replicate harm. We don't want to harm other people.
Yes. And I appreciate you understanding the nuance of it too, because I'm by no means, as you know, am I saying to dampen down your anger. There are many things in this world to be rageful about. And I think it's important that more of us who've been told not to express rage and anger to feel them and to express them to a certain degree. But action is an important part of this month too. Like I think what's great about Aries and Emperor is that they're not scared to take up their space. Big emotions without action have, like you said, nowhere to go. I think that's where the data comes in because if you feel enraged by something, there's a reason why. Do you know what I mean? There's something in it that is telling you how wrong this is for you, whatever that may be. And we can see in the world right now what happens with unaligned emperor energy. Yeah. So I'm just thinking there too. I would just be very mindful of what comes up for folks this month as well in terms of what activates people because these energies are like abundant in the world. We are seeing unaligned emperor everywhere. We are seeing unaligned tower, just think like literally towers falling, things being demolished. It's happening to people. It's happening by folks who are unaligned. And so I would just be very mindful as well that for those of us who are used to swallowing our anger, um, ignoring it, hiding it, being ashamed of it. There's nothing shameful about feeling anger. Um, just be mindful this month, and it could be like you said. This could bring up a lot for you, your own personal history and your own experiences, and folks who have maybe a parent who are unaligned emperors, and or partners or um, this could bring up a lot in terms of thing when the energy of it. There could be a lot of rage, but I would like to leave it on a for me to say those of us who navigate life in a more sensitive way, who are very familiar with our water energies in terms of emotions, we can do the most beautiful healing things with that if we're just very mindful of what's coming up. If we hold our Queen of Wands and our King of Cups along with, and if we have balance out the Emperor with the Empress in the root system, because otherwise that's just a easily toppled over
Right, right,
throne. You know what I mean? I think just be really mindful of that and just really trust our emotional realms and the maturity that we've developed over time to see us through. Because
right.
I know you're saying it could be very activating. It could be really kind of interesting too.
I think so because it goes back to that whole idea of curiosity, which really is like my
Yes.
word here for myself, is to be curious about what someone says or what like with.
Yeah.
I think it's a help. It's very helpful when we feel emotionally dysregulated to just
Mhm.
put into curiosity for just a quick second. Especially this month, this could be a great practice. There's going to be a lot of miscommunication, misunderstandings with Mercury retrograde and Aries between
Mm.
eclipses, I think, and the waters of Pisces when the emotional intelligence isn't there, or as you said, like the roots are not, we're not aware of the roots of our hurt and things, and there is no compassion. Well, it can get really
Hmm.
ugly, right? And so we're just trying to move through the chaos and the chatter of this month and
Hmm.
to not fan the flames, so to speak, when it comes to that fire energy. And so I really appreciate all the things you're saying. Sometimes we have to put out the fire, so to speak. And
Hmm.
the fire, though, when it does come up, it still needs to be acknowledged, as you said. And this is a great month for things like energy healing
Yeah,
or into those things, any sorts of intuitive healing that's,
yeah,
or just even getting started on thinking about those things because,
yeah.
I feel that the cosmos are trying to reflect back to us something here that um, conflict is inevitable. How we
Hmm.
through the conflict is up to us. How are we, steadfast in our practice um, of just being good, decent human beings?
Humans. Essentially, it's that whole thing about showing up to how we want the world to be as well, like showing up in ourselves and our own. Because sometimes I think we can be so overwhelmed about what's not going right in the broader sense that we forget how much agency we have to make it, to model for our children, to model with our communities and our families of how the world could be. We are all witnessing how the world is. We all are witnessing how it's not working. So why couldn't we just start doing things like I'm going to model real emotional intelligence. I'm going to be honest with about my emotions. I'm going to be honest and I'm going to be open and I'm going to be curious and compassionate about what's coming up.
Absolutely. And I just want to also add that, like, when we say emotional intelligence, we're not talking about this like refined, polished way of like existing.
No.
Not look like a complete meltdown, but it's this
Yeah.
idea of recognizing that there was a meltdown, recognizing where the roots of
Yeah.
the meltdown was, and
Yes.
how we're repairing with those around us and like with ourselves. And like that's the emotional intelligence piece. It doesn't mean it's
Oh
like
yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
like not at all. It's like actually
Not burning through life, just like not giving a shit about anyone else. No, we're like, yeah, emotional intelligence really is about being able to name and claim the emotions you have, being able to recognize which ones you have difficulty with and which ones you have more strength with. It's being able to um, be okay with mistakes and making mistakes. It's being reflective. It's also being able to repair. Repair is a massive one that's missing in our world. It's probably one of the biggest attributes for people that's missing in our world is the ability to repair properly when we make mistakes, when we mess up, when things go wrong, when we don't act in alignment of how we want to act.
I think repair is really going to be
Yeah.
the word of this month. But having said that, I do think with Mercury retrograde, I just want to say, and the eclipses, we can be on our emotionally intelligent journey or our human journey, but
Yes,
this. So one of the things about knowing the collective energies is it's not always also about yourself. You're going
it's
to be
not.
world
You
on,
could be ready for that repair work and they're not ready for it.
and people can also bring it to you, right? Like on
Yeah.
social media, in your day-to-day life. So just even knowing the energies ahead of time, going, okay, well, knowing that
Hmm.
highly um conflictual time, highly uh possibly explosive time, I will, choose to be gather my energy in, which is what I love, is like bring it in, do not give it away
Hmm.
to people, because again, it can be not our own doing. Someone could bring the quote unquote drama this month. Um, which I would love to check in next month with you. And if
I was
folks
gonna say, you maybe save your repair for Taurus season.
I was gonna say maybe think about repair, but if there's others that are open to it, it could be cool. Like we would love to hear from folks if whether it's
Mhm.
emailing us or commenting below. Want to know what your experience of the seasons are. I'm always so curious. I love hearing about yours. I would love to hear about what other people are going through and if any of this is resonating and they're feeling those things. So please, when you hear this, let us know about Pisces season, what that was like for you, and how are you kind of, what are your thoughts on what's going to be coming forth based on the things Danny and I talked about? All
Oh, it
right.
was lovely to catch up with you as always. And I hope you enjoy your family tradition tomorrow when you guys do that. That'll be lovely as well.
Talk to you soon.
Take care.
And